Okay, so good morning. My name is Jeff White. I am going to be your trainer for today, and we are going to be talking about searches, subscriptions, and portals. Now, I find what's easiest for this class is for me to focus on the difference between the three things, kind of explain to you what they are so you understand them intuitively, and then we will go into Flexmls and actually play around with the different functionality. So the first thing, what is a search? Well, a search is a selection of search parameters like a price range or an area or bedrooms, bathrooms, whatever you want. So a lot of the confusion using Flexmls for people in Northern Kentucky is they will set up a search and then they automatically assume that listings are getting sent to their clients. The search is just the bare minimum. The search, if you save a search and just save a search, it's not firing off listings to your clients. So I want to make sure you understand that's one of the key sticking points I've seen on some of the calls that we've been getting lately. So if you just have a search that you've saved, what you can do is that you can, John, if you have a question, just type it into the chat panel. I'm not going to unmute people just because if we have 30 people, it's going to be too hard. So if you have a search, what you can do is you can manually email those listings. But if you are not setting up a subscription, you would have to do that every single day. Meaning if you save a search, that's great. You might have 7 results, 9 results, that kind of thing. But it's not automatically going to send those listings unless you set up a subscription. John, everyone else can hear me. So if you can't hear me, try turning up the volume on your computer or logging out. Otherwise, this will be recorded. I can see, but it's definitely working with the audio on my end. So again, a search is something that you save with search parameters, but you have 7 results, 9 results. Nothing happens with those results unless you do it. So if you look at my screen right here and you see the difference between searches, subscriptions, and portals, look at who does the work. When you have a search, basically what it means is that you have to do the work yourself. You save the search, but nothing happens with those results. I want to make sure you really do understand that. Now, the next one is a subscription. So the subscription is an auto email or a drip email. What that means is that when you save a search, you have an option also to set up a subscription. This is the bare minimum that you want when you're dealing with clients. And why this is important is when you set up a subscription, you're basically telling Flex, hey, this is what my client's looking for. They want 3 bedrooms and Florence. Can you email my clients if there are any new listings, price changes, status changes, that kind of thing? So Flexmls does the work. And this is important because if you save that search and you don't set up the subscription, make sure you see this right here. However, a subscription isn't created automatically by saving a search or turning on the portal. If you turn someone's portal on, that is separate from a subscription. If you save a search, that doesn't mean they automatically get listings. So what we're going to do in this class is I'm going to show you a way to do all of this at the exact same time to make it easier, but we're going to break down the different sections because a lot of times what happens is people will come into my office and they'll say, hey, why isn't my client receiving emails? I set them up with a search. We go into their account, we see that there's a search set up, but they never set up a subscription. So there's just one extra step. So I'm going to show you in the different parts of Flexmls how you could catch people up if they weren't set up correctly. So again, search, you are doing the work. You have to manually email those listings. With a subscription, when you set up a subscription, Flexmls does the work. It fires off new listings, price changes, status changes. And the thing you pay attention to is when you set up a subscription, you can have it go out ASAP, meaning in about 2 to 5 minutes, a price change or a status change will get fired off to them. Whereas like a new listing usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes, but you can also do it once a day. Once a day would be ideal if, let's say you have a very broad search. With ASAP, they get an email for each individual listing. Well, if they have a broad search and they're going to see 15 emails a day, it makes a lot more sense to set them up just once a day, so they all get sent out in bulk. Now, once a month, this is something that people forget or just kind of ignore, but it's so important. And the reason it's important is, let's say that you have a client who purchased a house and you have their search on their record. And so what people will do is they'll just remove the search and the subscription. Don't do that. Switch the subscription to once a month. Change the language in the subscription that says, hey, this is what's going on in your neighborhood. This is what's going on, what you were looking for. It's just, this is a monthly reminder to them to remember who you are. So, the NAR has really studies that says something like 80% of people would recommend their realtor to a friend or family member, but under 20% actually do. And a lot of times it's because they don't remember your name. If you set them up with this subscription just once a month, it lets them know what's going on in their search parameters. And a lot of times people like to keep track of, hey, the area that I'm looking at, are the prices going up? So don't just automatically delete a search or subscription. Use that once a month option. Now, the portal is the hardest one to understand intuitively. So the portal is completely separate from a search and subscription. What I mean by that is I could set up a portal for someone. I don't need to set up a search or subscription. They can log into that portal. They can click on listings. They can tell me what they like, what they don't like. It can be standalone. And some people do that. So the example that I'm going to use in class is, I always recommend to new realtors, make sure you have your name badge on when you're out at Walmart or wherever you're at, because people will come up to you and say, oh, you're a realtor. Maybe they're in town visiting and they're looking to buy a property. They don't know a realtor, but they see you. And so one thing you can do with the portal is, and I will show this in class, is I can pull up my Flexmls app. I can add them as a contact, invite them to the portal. And this whole process will take less than a minute. And then once you do that, they get invited to the portal. They can log in. And you've not saved a search, you've not set up a subscription, you've done nothing else. So as you see on my screen, they are doing the work. They're doing their own searching. And when they do their own searching, we'll look into contact management and see what they are looking at. This gives you a reason to reach out to them. Now, you can save a search and a subscription for them as well. And I do recommend doing that. But with searches, subscriptions, and portals, you can kind of mix and match based on how you want to deal with your clients. So I want to just make sure that you understand that there are three different things. You can use them together or separately, but a lot of people, they get confused because they think they've just saved a search. Your client's automatically going to get it. No, that your client automatically doesn't get it. So do we have any questions before I continue? You see there's the chat panel. Everyone is muted, but if you have questions throughout the class, just type them in and I will continue to look at my other screen. Okay, so we are now looking at Flexmls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down the different things between searches, subscriptions, and portals. But what I want to do is I want to show you how to do it all in one. How do we set up a search, a subscription, and a portal at one time? One of the problems with Flex is that there are really 4 ways to do just about anything. Is when Flex would bring in new clients from who used other MLS software, the client would request, hey, this is how we used to do it. Can you do it this way as well? So they created these different workflows in Flex. So what I want to do and what I do in my classes is I try to show you the easiest way to do stuff inside the system. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a search. Now, we have a client. We're going to do a search for them. We're going to save it, set up the subscription, invite them to the portal as well. So if you haven't attended my Best of Flexmls class, you know that you can type in, or if you have attended, you can type in search parameters up at the top. And I just want to point this out to you so you have an idea that this is actually an option. So this is one way I could start a quick search. I could put in some search parameters up at the top. Start a search that way. Otherwise, what I can do is I could just click on quick search. So I'm going to use quick search just because that's what most people are aware of. So we're going to do, let's see, price of 250. Oh, let me do that again. I have this nice big mouse now, so you can see my mouse, but it actually kind of screws me up when I'm typing in stuff because I can't figure out where I am. Okay, we're going to do 2 to 3 for bedrooms. And then I'm going to do 2 full baths. And then we're going to do area of K07. So I could just type in K07. Okay, so I now have 5 results, and let's do one more. We're gonna do property subtype of single family. Oh, looks like we got nothing for single family. So what I could do is say not single family. There we got 5 results. So we have 5 results. What we want to do now is we want to save this search, set up a subscription, turn on the portal, and do it all in one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the upper right corner and I'm going to look for this save button, and I'm going to click on save. And what I'm looking for is save search. Save search, not saves quick search template. The quick search template is the fields that are available here on the left side. So if I'm always wanting to look for, say, a pool and also, let's say, exterior features, and I always want these to be on the left side, that is what a quick search template is. Now, I cover that in the customizations class later this month. So if you're curious on how to customize what's over here, or if you're curious how to customize what's in these columns here, that is going to be covered in the customizations class. So this month is solely going to be Zoom classes just to see what it does for attendance. So Liz asked, but you could have just done that in the search bar. Up here, you can do a lot of things in the search bar, but things like single family residence, that's not going to work here. So you could start it here and then you could finish it down here. I like to call this the open house search, meaning you're working an open house, you have your laptop with you. Someone doesn't have a lot of time. You just want to do a quick search and then fire off some listings to them. That's a good way to do it. Okay, so we got 5 results. So we're going to go to save search. So the reason we're saving the search is we have a set of parameters that we want to give for a specific client. So I'm going to save this search. Now, this is where you need to pay close attention. Most people are just going to save. They're not saving an added subscription because in this association, we had Paragon and we had Ramptoni, and every MLS system is slightly different. So we want to make sure if this is going to be for a client that we're saving and adding a subscription. If you just want to keep track of some properties, you can save it. That's for you. Because if I just save this, what this means is these 5 results, nothing happens to them. I could manually email them. And I know there still are some people who will get up at 5 in the morning, check their searches, see if there's anything new, and then manually email those listings. There's no reason now because the subscriptions process is just so much easier. So we're going to put in a name of the search. So we'll put in Orlando. We'll say 250 to 300K. I just like something describing the search and the name of, I like to put the name of my client in, because if you end up having multiple searches for a client, you get confused, but also it'll tell you specifically something about that search. Sometimes I just see no new home search. Well, who is that for? That can get confusing. Now, description. This is not a description of your client. When I worked at Flexmls, someone had put not really worth the commission in this box and then didn't realize that your client could actually see stuff like that. So don't use that for that. Now, contact, none, new, or existing. What I always like to do is I like to go to existing and type in the name of my client just to see if I've added them in the past. You may have met someone like a month ago and then they finally reach out to you. So I see, okay, Lando is not there. So I'm going to do a new contact. So Lando Calrissian. And you'll notice that I use an email address that's at mailinator.com. I like to use Mailinator because what I can do is I can actually pull up these different emails to see what they look like. And we're actually going to look at that later on in class. So you'll see that it also says create a portal account for this prospect. I'm going to do yes, and I'm going to do invite this customer to the portal. Now, if I do all these things and save and add a subscription, it's saving the search, it's setting up a subscription, and it's inviting them to the portal all at once. You don't have to do it at the same time if you don't want to, because one of the things that gets confusing is they'll see multiple emails. If you think it will overwhelm them, then you can wait to turn the portal account on. So remember, the portal is the website. It's the app. It is proactive. What I mean by that is if I set up a search and subscription, they get notified of new listings immediately, price changes immediately, but they're still reacting to that. And if they don't check their email or they don't click on something, they don't know. Whereas the portal, if you can't sleep at 1 a.m, the client can log in whenever they want and look at whatever listings. And so that's what I mean. It's proactive. You can use one or the other. So what I recommend is think about your clients. If you feel like they're going to be using the portal a lot, turn them on. If they're not tech savvy, you don't necessarily have to use the portal, or they may just not be interested. But one of the easiest ways to understand the differences between searches and subscriptions is after this class, set up subscriptions or portals for your friends or family member. Let them play around with it. Let them generate the data for you. The only way you really understand this is by using it and having, looking at it from the client perspective, but also looking at it from the realtor perspective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on save and add subscription. This is the key thing here. If I just save this and I see this nice big blue button, I'm thinking this is the default. Really, this should be the default. Because if I just save it and don't add the subscription, they do not get any future listings. And the reason I call them future listings is these 5 results. If I save and add a subscription, these 5 results do not get sent to your client. You would either manually email them to your clients, or if you set them up at the portal, they can see those 5 results in the portal. But a subscription is like a magazine subscription. When you sign up for it, you don't get the current issue. You get an issue in the future. So it could be 6 weeks. Well, here it's going to be same day. But just so you are aware, the original 5 results or 10 or whatever do not get sent in the subscription email. So are we clear on that? Any questions? Okay, so we're going to click on save and add subscription. So when I add a subscription, you'll see here's the subscription name. And it says send notification new listings to. Right here, I just have selected contact. You may have send me an email when clicks this link, but if you uncheck it, it should remember that. The reason I have this unchecked is I don't need to see every subscription email, the copy. You're going to get a copy that says agent only. I don't need to see that because if I go into contact management, and that's a big part of this class, I will see all these things anyways. So this right here is kind of a relic of 10, 15 years ago when you always wanted to see all the stuff that came out, where now you can actually track that. And then preview mode, 99% of the time people don't use this, but it allows you to prove listings before they're emailed to clients. But again, then that requires you to do something. If you're busy, those listings get held up. So if you're on top of it all day, that's fine. This really would be like, there's not a search parameter for blue siding, and your client hates the color blue. And so they get upset every time they see houses with blue siding. You preview it so you can kind of forward it on. But it adds an extra step that may not be necessary. So I find most people don't do it. Now we go down to schedule, weekly, monthly, ASAP. This is what I talked about on this original screen. Is the ASAP is usually about 2 to 5 minutes for price changes, status changes. New listings are about 10 to 15. And then monthly would be that once a month. Again, where your client, they purchase something, switch it to monthly, and we'll actually go into a subscription later on to see how to do that. And then ASAP is as soon as possible. Now, weekly, you notice every single day is checked. What that means is once a day at noon, if there are listings that meet the search parameters, they will get fired off. This has only 5 results. So this is a pretty narrow search. We might only see a new listing or price change a couple times a week. So they don't get it every day. It just says it's available to go out every day, but depending on how broad your search is. So something like this, because this is pretty narrow with the 5 results, I would rather have ASAP. So anything that jumps out onto the MLS, any changes gets fired off immediately. But if they have like this really, really broad search, and they're, you know, there can be 20 emails a day, the once a day, the weekly makes the most sense. Now, pay close attention to this. Right now, you're going to have no template. You're going to have a blank message for subject, and you should have a blank message for the body. So what I like to do is put in something in the subject, listings for you, and I'll keep the same message. And what I can do is I can save it as a template. So when I save this template, and I'll just call this April class, I can save it as a template, and I do have the option to make it as a default. So I make this as a default. This template will always be here every time I set up subscription, and I have a different template. So I could use a different one that might have different messaging. So what's cool about this is it just saves me some time and some work. So everything looks good here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on save. Now, when I click on save, this will now do the 3 things. It'll save the search, it'll set up the subscription, and it'll turn on the portal and invite them to the portal. So this is the easiest way to do them all at once. So I recommend for new clients, do this. We are going to go into my other clients with different levels of things that have been set up. And we're going to look for some like errors or things that like I may have done incorrectly, just so you are aware. Because a lot of people, when they take this class, they're like, well, what about the other 50 people that I've set up? How do I know that they're set up correctly? So we are going to look at those as well. So I'm going to click on save. Now, you're going to get a pop-up that says search and subscription saved. Would you like to email these listings now? This is a reminder that these 5 results do not go out in subscription. The subscription is an auto email or drip system. It's good for 13 months. So what that means is if your client clicks on either a subscription email, which says, yes, please send me listings, and we'll take a look at it, or they click on a manual sent email, they're opted in and they're good for 13 months. If they click on any link in the next 13 months, it'll extend it for another 13 months. So that's how the internet works with spam. To get around spam filters, people have to opt into stuff. And down at the bottom of the subscription email, it'll say, to unsubscribe, please click here. Flex has to do that to ensure that they have proper delivery. So I'm actually going to email these listings now, because what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at the different emails, what they look like. So manual email default. So this is something they're just going to see one time. So you could always say, hey, you know, it was nice meeting you. This is what you're looking for. You could have a nicer manual email default versus where the subscription, they're going to see that multiple times a day, possibly. So that would just be, you know, here you go. And then I'm going to click on email. So we've now done a bunch of things in the system. I'm going to return back to our search results, and we're just going to review it. We did a search for a client. So I put in the search parameters on the left side. Then I went up to save, and I clicked on save search. What I did then is I put in the name of the search, and I did a new contact. I turned the portal on and invited. And then we went to save and add subscription. So we did it all at once. So we're saving the search, we're setting up the subscription, We're turning on the portal. And then I also manually emailed those listings. So there's a lot going on there. So we're going to kind of break that down now. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to go into contact management, and I'm going to make sure that my client was set up correctly. I always double check my work. So what I can do is you could either click on contact management if it is up here in your menu. Otherwise, you will notice in class, I use the quick launch bar a lot, and I will do contact management. So inside of contact management, here are all my contacts. What I'm going to focus on is I'm going to focus on Lando because we just set him up. So in Lando's account, there's a couple of things that I want to pay close attention to. The first is right here where it says pending. I sent him a subscription email, says, hey, can I send you listings? And he has to say, yes, please send me listings. He has not done that yet. That is why this is pending. So if I'm checking it right away, I expect to see pending because I literally did this a couple minutes ago. Now, the other thing that I want to check is searches and subscriptions. And this is very important. Pay close attention to this. This is where most people mess up, is they have a search, but they don't have a subscription. So again, search must have a subscription. Otherwise, nothing has happened with that search. It's keeping track of things, and you could manually email them, but your client is not receiving those listings because they're not one and the other. And when I mentioned before, let's say Lando had purchased from me and I want to switch his email to once a month. This is where I do it. I can actually click in this right here. And you'll notice in my classes, I often refer to the mouse behavior. Watch what your mouse does. If you see a index finger, it says you can click on something, or a lot of times there's hover text. It says edit the subscription. I'm going to click on it. And this is where I could switch it to once a month and say, hey, change up your message. Like, I just want you to be aware of what's going on in the area that you bought. Let me know if you have any questions. And the great thing about this is the first thing they see in that email is they're going to see your name. And the same thing with the portal. Don't turn the portal off just because they purchased from you. Because I've talked to realtors all across the country that they have kept the portal on, and people will log into the portals even 2 years after they purchased. Now, why do they log into the portal? Well, remember, Flexmls is your MLS system. It is the primary source of data. If they are using other sites, the other sites get a feed from Flexmls. So those other sites could be hours or even days behind. Like we had an issue with one of our vendors. They went down for 2 weeks. They didn't even know. So Flexmls is the primary source of data. If you can get them into the portal, they see what you see, just not the private information. So you know it's going to be up to date because it is the source. So that's why, again, with the portal, people say, well, I should turn the portal off. Like, no, keep it on. Because when they log into the portal, the first thing they see is your smiling face. Make sure that they associate you with real estate, their friends, their family members. I mean, if you sell a nice house, you can buy them a nice chef's knife with your logo on it. But sometimes you're just selling a $160,000 condo. And, you're not going to put that much time and effort into reminding them. So using this software functionality, that once a month email, super simple thing. It requires very little effort on your end. So again, to sum up, we set up Lando. We're going to go into Lando's record and we're just going to take note of a few things. I see he's pending, which is fine, but we're actually going to check in the opt-in status report in a little bit, which is another really cool thing. Searches and subscriptions. He has a search and he has a subscription. So that's good. So let's look at a couple other of my contacts and see things that may not be set up correctly. So I'm going to go into Gold Leader. Well, I noticed, one, he did the confirmation email. I never set him up with one. So that right there is the first thing. That's interesting. Why isn't it at least saying pending? It's saying nothing. So what I do is I go into searches and subscriptions, and what do I see? I saved a search for him, but he has no subscription. This is the common call that we get here at the association is people say, well, why is my client not receiving any emails? Because you have a search, but you're not sending them anything. So if this is a scenario you have right now, and after this class, I want you to go through your contacts to make sure that they're receiving their emails. So watch what I do. I have a search, but they need a subscription. It's real simple. I'm just going to click on add a subscription. We just did this, decide what I want to do. I'll probably want to do ASAP, decide which template, and click on save. It's going to take me 10 seconds, but now my client is going to receive a subscription email that says, hey, do you want me to send you listings? They click yes. They now are good for 13 months. Again, if you just see that search and nothing here, they are receiving nothing. They may, if you turn on the portal, they may be logging into the portal because that's a separate thing. But that's one thing you want to look for. Now, the other thing you want to look for is, let me pull up Luke. I'm going to Luke. Okay, I see it's confirmed. So this is good. This is what I want to see. And then I go to searches and subscriptions. I notice that he has 2 searches, but you have to click on each search because each search has a separate subscription. They don't group them. I see this one has a subscription. Luke Skywalker 6-bedroom. I click on this one. No subscription. So he's receiving the 250 to 300 in subscription form, but the 6 bedrooms, it's just a search that is attached to his contact record. He's not receiving it. So if you have someone who's looking at very broad areas, you have a couple different searches, maybe land for one and residential for the other, make sure both have the subscription. So he's mostly finished, but this right here, he is not receiving that. Now, any questions before I continue? Glad some of you were on camera just so I can see some faces and reactions because I am a in-person hands-on teacher. Zoom makes it very challenging. So, okay. So that's the search, set up a subscription and the portal. So what we want to do now is we want to look at a few other things regarding subscriptions, some functionality. And one of the most important things that people don't realize is the opt-in process. So I'm going to type in OPT. And what I'm looking for is opt-in status. So again, OPT opt-in status. Okay, so the opt-in status, this is something that you should be checking every single week. What I mean by that is set a reminder on your phone, set a calendar thing. This doesn't require much effort, but this is so important because with the opt-in status, you actually get to make sure Flex is doing its job. So if I go into the opt-in status report, again, OPT opt-in status, when you're setting up these subscriptions for your clients, you want to make sure they're actually receiving these listings, but you don't know unless you're checking the work. So if I'm on the summary screen, I see 10 contacts have opted in. And then I also see like 1 contact is undeliverable, 8 contacts have been pending. Ignore what's on this screen. We're going to focus what's on these ones because this is my training account. I'm constantly deleting contacts, moving things around. So the numbers here won't match what's here just because, again, I'm removing people quite a bit. This is where you want to focus though. You set this reminder on Thursday morning, Friday morning, takes you a couple minutes. I go to pending opt-in. So the first thing that jumps out is Leah has been pending for 41 days. And when you check this yourself, you may notice that people are pending for a month, 2 months. This means even though you save that search and set up subscription, they are not receiving any of those listings. Because of spam rules on the internet, Flex has to go through this opt-in process. Flex sends millions of emails every single day. Now, I know just from personal experience, people will get my email from something and set me up with subscription without my approval all the time. But Flex can't do that. So this person, Leah, right here, she's not receiving any listings. So I've already sent in the opt-in request. You can send it one more time, That's why you see this resend request. If you're checking this once a week, you may notice someone's been pending 6 or 7 days. That's not too bad. You can call them up, you can email them, and you can say, hey, you could resend the request. Make sure you do this because you're not going to receive listings anyways. And then you always follow that up with, remember, my MLS is the primary source of data. If you're using other sites like Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, whatever, those could be hours or days behind. I know some people will check 5 or 6 different sites to see if the data is the exact same when they don't realize the MLS is the primary source of data. That gets sent out. But once that data gets sent out, we have no control of whether or not Zillow's updating, whether HomeSnap's updating, if there's errors. The data is available for them, but they may mess it up on their end. So getting them inside the portal is very important. So I'm not going to resend these requests because I just set up Lando and GoLeader this morning, but checking this once a week. Undeliverables, this would be if they have a bad email address, but one cool thing in contact management is whenever you set up a contact, it actually checks to see if the email address is valid. Like if you did Yahoo, but you forgot one O, you'll see that at the top of contact management. Now confirmed, this is what you want to see. They've confirmed, and then you see the last time they've actually clicked on a subscription email. If they click on something, it resets the counter to 395 days. That's why we see 4 days ago, Wedge clicked on it, and so it went back up. Luke, I set him up a couple months ago for class. Well, he's never clicked on anything. That's why it's now going down. Now, opted out. This is an important one. You are going to receive an email when your client opts out of subscription, but we're busy. You may miss it. So if you're checking this once a week, you will see that they are opted out. Now, just like any subscription on the internet, you have to give them the option to opt out. Usually they opt out because you set them up with ASAP. They're receiving 15 emails a day and they can't keep up. So then it makes sense if they've opted out, reach out to them and say, hey, are you receiving too many emails? Let me set you up with once a day. So then you just go back into that subscription and you change the ASAP option to once a day. And then inactive, if they haven't clicked on an email in 13 months, they go inactive. That basically means they're probably not your client. So we'll go back into contact management just to kind of review. Let's say that, okay, we set up Gold Leader in his subscription. If he's getting too many subscriptions, I switch it from ASAP to weekly, meaning once a day. If there are listings, then just click on save because he opted out. He's receiving too many emails. That's how I do that. Another way to pull up your subscription emails is you can just up in the top, you can type in subscriptions. Start typing in subscriptions and I can click on this and you'll actually see a section. It shows all your subscription emails, the contact, and then the search that's there. Sometimes people have subscriptions for multiple people, multiple contacts. You'll see all the actives, inactive, agent only would be just ones for you. But this is a great way to kind of get an idea of where all your subscriptions are. Because if you print off this list or you take note of this list and then you look at your contacts and you only see 10 active subscriptions, but you have 20 active contacts, you're going to want to go into those contact records and make sure that they have the search and they also have the subscription. And you could always filter, like if you have a bunch, type in a name. There we go. So I see my different searches. There we go. Another really cool thing you can do is if I were to type in there's something called my sent emails. If you're curious, and this is why you do not need to get copies of those subscription emails, because Flexmls actually tracks it. Here are all my manual sent emails, and it shows me if they've actually clicked on it. And I can view it. If I want to see what was actually sent, I click on view. I see, okay, these are the 5 results that I sent. So you don't have to get those copies and try to look through your inbox. It's all available here. So we have the manual, but we also have the subscriptions. If your client's like, hey, I never received that listing, we actually have timestamps, view counts, and we actually see, okay, well, Wedge, he viewed one at 10:32. Which one did he view? This one on Goodrich Drive. So this stuff is now all tracked inside of Flexmls. You don't have to receive those copies anymore. And again, if your client says, hey, I don't remember, or I didn't get that, you can always come here and check. And so it's going to keep them for the last 90 days. Okay. Any questions before I continue? Is anyone super confused right now, or are you starting to kind of understand what we're doing? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that kind of chart to verify we make sure we understand. The search is just the search. Nothing happens with those results. They're either, you have to manually email them because they're not going to fire off in a subscription. The subscription requires a search, yes. A subscription is not automatic. You have to click on save and add a subscription for the subscription to fire off. But when you do the subscription, Flexmls is doing the work for you. Whereas the portal is a website or an app. Your client can log into it. It's proactive. It's completely separate from the subscription, but you can combine them. And so for the portal, those subscription emails, those listings, when you set up subscription, the portal is basically now the subscription becomes a news feed. So you'll see in the portal, there's a news feed with the new listings, price changes, that kind of thing. So I recommend doing all of them if you can, but you don't necessarily have to do. John says, why would you not combine the 200 to 250 with the 6-bed? I'm just showing as an example that if you have multiple searches, like you have a land search, they're looking to maybe build unless they can find a great house. So you have a land search and you have a residential search. The fields don't always match up. So you may end up having 2 different searches, meaning that you're going to have 2 different subscriptions. Liz says, are you going to talk about the rationale about who should get what, portal versus subscription? It really comes down to the subscription should be the minimum. I mean, because you're having Flex do the work for you. You don't want to be doing searches every day and because you're going to miss stuff, especially in a hotter market, unless you're in front of your computer every single day. If you're just firing off listings when you're at your computer, they're going to receive them faster on other sites. That's why you let Flex be the faster deliverer. The portal, if you can't explain the portal to your client, don't use it. If you set your client up or your friends or family members with a portal and you play around with it and you understand it, definitely do the portal. But it's something that you're going to have to explain to them. One thing I recommend doing is if you have a tablet in your car, you could put the portal on your tablet. And when you're driving through between different open houses, have them use the portal while they're with you, because if they're just in town for the weekend or they're just doing whatever, you can teach them how to use the portal while they're with you. So portals or subscriptions, you can use both of them for clients. I think it's going to make more sense once we actually jump into the portal so you see the difference, but it's not intuitive. I really wish you could just click an easy button and Flex would do it all for you, but it just doesn't work that way. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, before we actually jump into more of the portal, is we're going to take a look at what those listings or those emails actually look like. So Lando Cali. So I'm going to pull up Mailinator. And we're going to take a look at what those different emails look like. So the first one that they see is a portal for listing information. I'm going to click on this. This is actually the invitation for them to sign up for the portal. So if you turn the portal to yes and invite to the portal, this is what they see. Like I said before, you can do the portal by itself. You can invite them to the portal and then they could sign up. So I'm going to show you how to do it on your mobile app. But another option could be, and I'm going to go back to my original Flexmls, in contact management, there is a quick add right here. So let's say, I'll use Jar Jar. Let's say that you're working in an open house and someone says, hey, I want to look at see what's available, but you don't have time to set up a search and subscription. So all you do is put in their information, portal, add, that's done. That simple process that I just did the exact same thing that we did when we did the all-in-one, is it sends this invitation. And so they sign up, they look at listings, they are generating data for you. And we're going to look at that in the second half of the class. So I'm going to sign up for the portal just to show you how simple. And what's really nice about this is if you're with them, have them pull up the email on their phone so you can just help them to make sure they get it. So Jar Jar. And I always tell people just do 1, 2, 3, 4 for the password, just so you know you don't have to reset it. It's not like it's banking information. I'm not a robot. Confirm. Oh, let me, of course, Murphy's Law, something always goes wrong when you do this. Oh, I did, let's do Lando. There we go. Okay. So this is the portal. It is mobile responsive. So if you do a search or whatever, you see the full screen. But if I make it small, this is going to look like their mobile app. So they're going to be able to figure out how to use this pretty easily. They've used some results. They start clicking on stuff. This now starts to generate data for you. What I mean by that is they star something, they like it. They hide something, they don't. They click on something, we see that. I have not set up a search. I have not set up a subscription. Literally just invited. Took me 20 seconds. And then there you go. They have access to the primary source of data. And the first thing that they see when they log into the portal is your smiling face right here. They're associating you with their search. And again, even if they purchase from you, leave it on, tell them, I'm going to keep this available for you. So if you ever have any questions, that's how you get the referrals. You make it as easy as possible for them. So again, mobile responsive, this is the small screen, which you'd see on your phone. This is the big screen. It just has larger functionality. So going back to our emails, a portal for listing information. Now you notice it's generated even another email. This is why I wish Flex didn't have so many emails, but it'd be nice if you do this process while your clients are with you. Once you understand the process, you can kind of explain these different things. This portal login information, this is just your URL to your portal, and they can download apps. So this is something you could tell them to bookmark it in their email so they can find it easily. Or what you could do is they pull up their phone, you could bookmark this in their browser so they know how to get to it. Now, the next email we're looking at is Jeffrey White would like to email listings to you. This is the subscription email. Unless your client clicks on this, they are not going to receive listings. This is that pending, that invite, the opt-in status. We see the pending. Until I click on this, nothing happens. So this is Lando Calrissian. So what I'm going to do is let's take a look. Let's go back into Lando's contact record. I see that he's pending because he has not clicked on this. So let's see what happens when he clicks on it. He clicks on it. This is what he says. Your account has been confirmed. So he does that. If we were to refresh contact management, there we go. He is now confirmed. This is what you want to see. You should go into every single active contact you have and make sure that they are confirmed. Liz, I'm not quite sure what you're asking about. Auto is part of the portal sign up. Auto emails and portals are two different things, completely separate. You can use one or the other, but they are two different things. I want to say Rapatoni kind of had it combined, but no, two separate things. That's why in the beginning part of the class, we typed in, we did it all at once. Okay, so the email asks to receive listings. Once they click on that, they're now receiving subscription emails in the future. That's just asking, is it okay? They have to opt into it. So that is the subscription email. Now, your listings, this is my manual email. I sent him 5 listings, and if we click to view listings, these are the manual listings, that the 5 that he sees. So 3 different emails, because I did it all at once. That's why they're all at the same time, basically. You could do it in different steps, whatever makes sense to you. And then the portal login information is just going to be, this is a reminder to go back into the portal. So we're going to take a 10-minute break and then start up again at 11 o'clock. So get your coffee, check your emails. Just want to make sure that everyone is fresh in the next 10 minutes, because we're going to cover a lot more information. So as you will see on my screen over here, I am showing the Flexmls Pro app. This is basically the Android version, whereas the iPhone version is pretty similar. So instead of a contact person, you're going to see you might see like a plus, or you see contact, but we're looking for like plus sign. So similar functionality. But what we're going to do now is we're going to use that scenario from before, where we're at Walmart or we're at Trader Joe's. Someone sees our realtor name badge, and you want to get them set up with the portal. So again, the portal is that website. You don't have to have a search and subscription. I recommend doing it. But what we're going to do is, we only have a couple minutes. We're going to get them signed up for the portal. So I'm going to tap or click on the contact. I'm going to click on add contact. And so we'll put in an email address. So Darth Vader 88. Put an email address, put in the name. I'm not even going to do a phone number. I mean, I can if I want, but I'm going to click on done. So you're tapping this on your phone. No, you'll either see the send invite option right here in their contact record, or on Apple, I believe if you go back to the contacts, you'll see it there. It's going to be like a green button, but it's real simple. You just tap on it and send. So this is that portal invitation. Again, I have a couple minutes with this person. If you do have a little extra time, you could say, hey, pull up your email address. I'm going to help you set up the portal, which we just saw in the previous hour. And this class is being recorded, so you can always come back to it and see how that works. But what's great about this is when Darth starts clicking on stuff, he likes things, he goes into things. I just set him up with a portal. I've done nothing else. And then in a few days, this is when I go into contact management and I take a look at what he likes, what he doesn't like, that kind of thing. It gives me a reason to reach out to him. So what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the portal a little bit. We're going to generate some data. So then when we go back into contact management, we see how valuable that data can be. So again, just to resume what we did. If you're in your app, you go into the contact section. For iPhones, it's down here. You add a contact. In iPhone, I believe it's going to be just a plus sign. Put in the name of the contact, done, and then you just send the invitation. It's super simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at Lando's portal. So Lando has logged into the portal. Now, if I save a search or subscription, he is going to see it under the saved section, which he does right here. But like I said before, you don't have to have a search and subscription for the portal to work. It's a good idea, because basically what happens is if they have the portal and then they receive a subscription email and they click on it, it brings them back into the portal. It reminds them to go back into the portal. But again, not required. So just want, so many people get confused. They're like, well, they can't use the portal without a search. Yes, they can. And we're going to do so right now. Now, I can do a search. I'm actually going to spend most of the time using this in more of a mobile format, because so many more people are using their phone. So I find it's a little easier to explain. So here's the front page. We can click on search. And what I'm looking for is filter. Filter is just like what I do in my quick search. You go to filter. We could do location. I'm going to do Florence. And maybe I'm going to, because they're not going to understand what areas are. I'll do Florence and Ellesmere. And Florence and Ellesmere. And then property type. You know, it defaults to everything. Maybe they just want to have residential. Again, this is, I'm clicking on stuff, but this is going to be them using their finger. Price, let's do 200 to 300,000. I think probably let's add another city. Or maybe we'll do, yeah. Just so we keep our results up. They scroll down. Again, this is the client. This is Lando. This is not you. Lando is doing his own search. Maybe he wants minimum 2 beds. And what he can do is he can add a field. So this provides some basic fields. But if he adds a field, he could type in the name of it. New construction. And when he does that, it now gets added to the search. So he could put in yes, no. I'll just say no. Or actually, it really lowered my results down. So, but he can add a field. So this is like him searching on another website, another app, but the primary source of data. So they're using other sites. There's no guarantee it's going to be accurate and up to date. So we view the results. There are the results. He can always, if you tap on this, this is how you draw. So he could actually just draw different shapes. He could click on this. This shows the different map views, south views, and actually can show flood zones. If he wants to see, hey, are on any of these properties in the flood zones? See it there. So a lot of this is pretty intuitive, pretty easy. They're not going to break anything when they tap on stuff. So I can close the map. But now we have 9 results. So this is Lando doing his own searching. I set up a search subscription for him. But again, like I showed you before, you someone to the portal. It takes you 20 seconds, a minute, super simple. Now they are looking at some results. So starring stuff means he likes it. Hiding means he doesn't want to see it. And what's cool about the portal is if they are with you and you get really comfortable with the portal, you could just show them how it works while you're with them. And my 2 previous associations, I worked in Arizona and I worked in Florida. There were a lot of transplants who would come to just the weekend. And so what I would train the agents would be is learn how to use the portal and teach it to them while they're in town with you. So when they go back home, they're using the portal and you get to track everything they're looking at. Because if they're using another site, you have no idea what they're doing. But if they're doing it inside of Flexmls, you get to see what they're doing. So this is all the public information that is available. They can hide, they can save, they can share. They share this, that could be to a family member, go through the different photos. You know, it's full screen it. For you to really understand the portal, set it up with a friend or family member and see what they're doing, kind of get a feel for it. That's one listing, could go down to another listing. Contact agent, meaning you. This is your portal, the contact agent. They're going to send in a message to you. Now, most people text, but sometimes they want to use the messaging that is available here as well. They can go into the different details. Again, this is the public information. The portal is meant for your clients. You would use your own app if you want to see all the information, showing instructions, that kind of thing. Could save this one. Go back. So it's pretty simple how to do searching. We see photos, we see the list of the different properties, and we see the map. Now the functionality for iPhone is going to be slightly different for the Android device. Flex does actually have a really good iPhone class. If you go up to help, or actually no, it's not there right now. It's under this 2. If you do a search and you type in iOS, Flexmls Pro, there's an Android class and there's an iPhone class. I did teach an iPhone class, but not a lot of people showed up. So you can see this right here if you want to watch how to use the iPhone. And okay, let me get back to what I was doing. Okay, close the map. So then we can go to the star. The star or the save is going to be if there's the searches that they have. And then you see he saved 3 things and he's hidden 2. So this actually gets tracked and you get to see this. And if he wants to pull up his actual search, here it is, those 5 results, and we can do the photos. The bell is going to be the newsfeed. So when you set up a subscription, they show up in newsfeed format. So there's nothing new. We just set up the search with 5 results, but if there was a new listing, it would show up in the newsfeed. So newsfeed kind of equals subscription. But other things that could show up in the newsfeed is if you recommend a listing, that kind of thing. That's additional functionality that's outside, but we're not going to cover that today. And then he sees his profile. So the same thing on the full site. See it here. If he's using his computer, he can do some searching. Now the filters are on the left side and then the map is on the right side. So it's a little easier to use the full screen. Let's do bedrooms. We'll do a price. And let's do area, because the problem with areas is they don't know what an area is. Area is for us. So they're most likely going to use a city, a county, zip, that kind of thing. So we got 17 results. Click on view the results. Every time he clicks on something, it tracks that click inside of contact management. We're going to go into contact management just in a little bit. So again, starring, saving, hiding stuff he doesn't like. Just to emphasize again, doesn't need a search and a subscription to use the portal. Can do this all by himself. And then once we go into contact management, look at the data that's generated. That gives us our reason to reach out to him. Easiest way to understand the portal, play around with it yourself. You set up you could set up your personal email, not the email you use for work, but your personal email. Invite yourself to the portal and then see it from the perspective of your client. So when they ask you questions, then you can say, hey, this is how it works. And ideally, they're there with you. So then you can invite them to the portal. You can give them some basic tips on how to use it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to go into the actual contact management and take a look at the data that gets generated. And I'm going to look at a couple different contacts just to see. So we're going to go into contact management. And the first thing that I notice is that Wedge has this really blue bar. He's really active. And this is the last 7 days, meaning yesterday. Now, Lando is going to be really blue tomorrow because it just goes back the previous day. That's why I don't see anything here, even though he's been doing a bunch of stuff. But one thing I do see is he has saved and hidden. I customized my contact list. So I actually have some more columns with some information. So I don't even have to go into their contact record to see that he's doing stuff. I cover that in the customizations class later this month. So what we're going to do is we are going to go into a couple different records. We're going to go into Wedge. So I noticed that he's really blue. He's active. So if you got some downtime, don't focus on your clients that aren't actually using anything. Go into your contacts that are active. So he's active. So the first thing I'm looking for is the activity section right here. I go into activity. Well, over the last 30 days, sometimes he's not active, but he's been really active. These are the classes that I teach. But what you want to pay close attention to is this right here. Viewed listings. If you have not set up a search and subscription for them, but you go into their portal record, you need to go into view listings because the first thing that jumps out at me is he's clicked on this one 4 times. This is my reason to call him. You're not cold calling him. You set up a portal or subscription. You see that he's viewed this 4 times, call him up and say, hey, should I schedule a showing for this? It looks like you're interested in this property. And this could be that thing, like I said before, at Trader Joe's or Walmart. You set them up with the portal. Takes, 30 seconds. You've done nothing else with that contact record. You check his record a few days later and you notice he's clicking on stuff. This is your reason to reach out to him. Also, if he shared any listings, people tend to share listings with husbands, wives, boyfriend, girlfriend, that kind of thing. And if he has any email activity, I did set him up with a search subscription, and you'll notice that, well, I'm emailing him stuff, 46, but he's only clicking on some of them. So maybe he's busy. Search and subscriptions, we've already gone over this, but we want to verify that the search always has a subscription. Again, search always has a subscription. Portal, this is the other thing I want to look at. He has listing collections. If he's saved anything or he's hidden anything, I've actually hidden some for him. I can track it here. But if I go to view newsfeed, these are going to be all the things that have been fired off to him. So searches in the search and subscription, or if like I recommended something to him, this is all the stuff that is there for him. So that is Wedge. Let's now go to, we'll go to Lando. So I go into Lando's record. It's always nice to see when they're confirmed. It's like one of the first things I always check, he's confirmed. Then I'm going to go into activity. Now, again, yesterday. So I don't see anything blue today because we just started doing it, but I just set up Lando earlier in this class. So let's imagine it's been a couple days. He's already viewed some listings. Like, oh, interesting. What has he viewed? Well, he looked at this Retriever Way one twice. And sometimes you'll see 5, 6, 10. They're checking out stuff multiple times. And they may be busy during the week. And so they haven't had a chance to reach out to you, or they don't quite know what to do. This is your data that says, hey, I should contact this person. Let me schedule a showing for them. You can see everything. And this is basically in real time. If they click on something, you're going to see it in Flex like a minute later. So this is the data that he's generating for me. Search and subscriptions. Now, I do have a search and subscription form, but I keep emphasizing the portal does not require it. So what's great about setting them up with a portal, but not doing the search and subscription right away, is what you can do is if they start clicking on stuff, you notice what they like, take a look at what they're saving, take a look at what they're viewing, and you can get a feel like, oh, it looks like he's looking in Florence and Ellesmere about $300,000. When you call them up, says, let's schedule a showing, but is this what you're looking for? And he's like, yeah, let me set up a search and subscription for you. So then you'll get reminded when there's new listings, because he might already be going into the portal, but then you're now combining the search and the subscription all at one. Again, I keep coming back to this thing right here. There's different levels. Think of it like service you can provide to your clients. Really comes down to how you want to do it. When we did our search and subscription and portal, we did it all in one, which you can do, or you could just do parts of it. It just comes down to what you feel comfortable with. Now, then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to go to portal. I see that he has saved 4. So let's see what he has saved. This is that data that's going to generate for me. Now, clearly huge price range because I did a couple different searches, but you might get a feel for what he likes. We go into hidden. We see what he is hiding. Sometimes clients can't verbalize what they like, but you can look at what they don't like and get a better feel for what that is. Okay. Any questions before we continue? Okay, I'm just going to do some review then. This class is a lot shorter than I had planned because it's not in person, and my classes tend to be hands-on, and we haven't had a lot of questions, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm just going to do a bit of review, and then we'll have a nice short recording that you can watch later on. So the first thing that we did is we looked at our little chart thing here. This was emailed to you this morning. So if you want to print this off or share this with people at your office, basically explains the differences between the search, the subscription, the portal. Search, you do the work. Subscription, Flexmls does the work. Key thing, Setting up a search does not guarantee its subscription. You have to click on that save and add subscription button. The portal's the website. Your client logs in, they click on stuff, it generates data for you. You can combine these two if you want, but you don't have to. It just comes down to what you feel comfortable with. And then what we did is we did a search, set up a subscription, and did the portal all in one. So I'm going to do that again. We're going to click on quick search. Let's just do something pretty fast. I'll do 3 to 4 beds, 3 baths. We'll do a price of $300,000 to $350,000. Okay, same 5 results. We're going to go up to save search. And then, okay, I'm running out of Star Wars characters. Oh, Jack Porky. He meets his end in the first movie, unfortunately, but great name. Let's do 300K. And then contact. I always like to see if they are already in there. He is not. So I'm going to do Jack Porkins. Set up his email, create a contact or portal account for this prospect. Yes. If you want to turn the portal on at the same time, that's what you do. Just personal preference. Save and add subscription. Ignore this blue button that draws you to this. This is not what you want to click if you're setting up subscription. You're going to go to save and add subscription right here. Decide what I want. I don't need that email because, again, I showed you under my sent email subscriptions. You see a lot of that stuff is already tracked. Decide, do I want once a day or as soon as possible? Because we see 5 results, there might only be a couple each week. I'm going to do ASAP. Decide what template I want. And click on save. So we've saved the search, we've set up the subscription, and we invited them to the portal. This last step is asking, do we want to email these listings now? Because these 5 results do not get sent out automatically in the subscription. So what I can do is I can email these results manually. And if I have templates, what's nice is that, this information can already be filled out. And then click on email. This is going to generate a lot of emails for them if you do this process. So it's ideal that they are with you. And we're actually going to pull up what that email looks like. Again, just to verify we understand it. So I want to make sure I had Jack's set up correctly. So we're going to go into contact management. Jack Porkins. Every time you set up a search and subscription, you always want to make sure that they see if they're okay. He's pending. That's fine because I just set him up. But you want to go to searches. He has a search. He has a subscription. Okay, Liz says if you turn the portal on at the same time, does your client get duplicate emails? Not duplicate, just multiple emails. So this Jack Porkins 123 at Mailinator. Let's take a look at it. Portal for listing information is the invitation to the portal. We saw that. He has to click on this and sign up. Jeffrey White would like to email listings to you. This is the subscription email invite. Once he clicks on this, then he's going to get those subscription emails. Unless he goes here and clicks on yes, please send me, please email listings, he's not receiving them. And that's why we're checking in the opt-in status report once a week, is people automatically assume. Even if you set up with a subscription, you've done your part. But if they don't want to, or they ignore it, those emails do not go out. And then your listings is the manual emails. If I turn on the portal, I don't usually email manually those 5 or 7 or whatever they are, because if he goes into his search, he actually can see those listings. So, or it goes into his portal. Okay, so that is really what we covered. Don't forget about the OPT, the opt-in status report, which is important to check once a week. If we see people are pending for a long time, that's not a good thing. We check in the sent emails. If you want to make sure, you're like, well, are you sure those subscription emails are going out? There we go. Subscription emails. You should also pull up your subscriptions if you want to see, hey, who has subscriptions. But after this class, what I want you to do is go into contact management. If you have someone who's active, click on them. Make sure they're confirmed and make sure that they have a search and a subscription. Remember, we looked at a couple examples for someone who had a search and no subscription, like this. We would click on add a subscription. Or with someone who had 2 searches and only one of them had a subscription. Each search has to have a subscription. Any other questions before we finish? Okay, it looks like we are good. I do have 3 other classes this month. If you're interested, one is going to be customizations, one is going to be the best of Flexmls, and one is going to be statistics, I believe. Otherwise, if you have questions, my email is jeff@nkar.com. Again, jeff@nkar.com. I do see some new faces on this webinar, but if you have any questions, Liz, am I rerunning the iPhone class? It might be a couple months, so I would look at the under here. Go to just type in iOS, and then you could watch this one. This is a really good class. I usually am not a huge fan of some of the classes that Flexes does their way, but this is a good one. So I'd recommend that. Otherwise, you can always just schedule an hour with me to come in my office if you have any specific questions. But that's all I had. Thank you for joining us and have a wonderful day.